This video is about community of ecology. So, introduction: different types of population in a given habitat are studied under community ecology. Some kind of species constitute population, but when different populations, different kind of species interact together with beneficial and mutual adjustment, sharing same environment and habitat, the association is called community. Examples of community include grassland, a pond, or a forest where different animal organism population interact with plants and other population in a natural area and sharing environment. This community includes only interacting biotic components of ecology, like living organisms. If we consider abiotic components, environment associated with the biotic component, community component, different organisms, then it will be called ecosystem, which we will be learning. Ecosystem and community vary on the basis of environmental factors. While walking in a forest, we not only see different types of plants, trees like pine tree or maple tree, but also get glimpses of deer or squirrel or spider, sometimes indicating a collection of different kind of species constituting populations different in that natural area sharing uniform environment. These different populations are adapted to the same environment and influence each other through their associations, either positive or negative, and thus shaping or forming a biotic community. Types of community: the interactions, association, and assembly of different populations shape the structure, diversity, niches, and dominance properties of biotic community. These interactions can be direct or indirect, or can be negative or positive: competition, predation, mutualism, and so on. Community has different meanings. Some say it is an assemblage of organisms of some kind habitating same area, such as birds in grasslands or lizards in deserts, etc. Some ecologists describe it as group of specialized organisms occupying same habitat, like in the forest canopy, insect feeding insectivorous birds form a community. Some ecologists refer to the term guild or ecological guild. In a specific habitat, the species group sharing some property of feeding or foraging are termed as guild. So, in a specific habitat, the species group sharing same property of feeding or foraging are termed as guild. Same type of feeding. Okay. For example, granivorous, insectivorous birds. In all of the above described definitions, the community is restricted to habitat sharing assembly of interest species. Interest species. Major community is a large community which is an independent unit, self-sustaining and self-regulating, and comprised of different minor communities: a forest, pond, desert, meadow, lake, and grassland are some common examples of major communities. Several minor communities form a major community. These small communities that form a self-sustaining major community are not self-sustaining in it, rather for its existence depends on other type of communities. A typical example of major community is a forest that comprised of different minor communities, such as a animal community, the interacting animal population in the forest; plant community, forest plant population; and the microbial community, including fungi and bacteria population. A community can be autotrophic, self-sustaining, or heterotrophic. An autotrophic community gains solar energy through plant photosynthesis. It forms a major community. Heterotrophic community depends on organic materials which are fixed energy from outside. Alpine heathland, autotrophic plant community, Australia. Different minor communities such as heterotrophic micro communities assembled to form major communities. For example, fallen logs consist of different populations such as termite species constituting one population, bacteria and fungi or other small populations of different species together forming small micro communities. Different species of population have overlapping terrestrial ranges where they coexist in a particular limited area, representing a community. A community is composed of both plants and animals, as their interaction is must for the survival of community. Under the similar environmental conditions, similar type of species found in communities which tend to overlap each other, and because of several variations and other variation, animals may shuffle between communities. Just like population has several group characteristics not applicable on single organisms, similarly community also have characteristics different from their constituent populations. Community structure. Either it's an aquatic or terrestrial community, both share analogous biological structures. The biological structure comprised of an autotrophic component and a heterotrophic component. The autotrophic entities prepare food from inorganic substances and mix solar energy, whereas the heterotrophic components are dependent on the stored food of autotrophs. Heterotrophs utilize stored food of autotrophs and through different mechanisms such as herbivory, carnivory, and decomposition are able to circulate and transfer energy and nutrients in the ecological community or ecosystem. The physical structure of the community makes it easier to recognize and distinguish them from other community. The pattern of spatial allocation of species and population within the community defines the physical structure. The communities not only differ from other type of communities in the physical structure, rather pronounced differences are there among communities of similar types. For instance, various aquatic communities appear different, such as river, pond, ocean, lakes, stream, etc. And also various terrestrial communities appear distinct from each other, such as desert, forest, grasslands, etc. The aquatic community varies with respect to flow and depth of water, such as spring, pond, stream, lake, and salinity conditions, such as freshwater, brackish water, and marine. Then, physiognomy, form and structure of physiognomy, form and structure of terrestrial communities are measured by the prevailing life forms of growth forms of plants in a given area. Plants in a given area which are in turn dependent on the substrate, climate, and other characteristics of the habitat. Classification and naming of communities. Like any other biological units, communities can be described, studied, and compared with other communities of different habitats or regions based on their classification system. Several approaches are used for community classification, each appropriate and each random to a specific viewpoint and need. The pronounced and easily recognizable features of ecological community is the physiognomy or gross structure of that community, and thus the community is named and classified based on the dominant life forms of species such as oyster bed or coral reef community. Next part we'll be learning with the help of next video. So deciduous or coniferous forest as a community, tall or short grass prairie community. This type of approach is significant in classifying the communities with more than one type of dominant life forms or species groups, such as shade scale desert and sagebrush desert communities that stays prominent at all times.